This is the story of Emma Carter, a 32-year-old woman who was celebrating her 5-year wedding anniversary with the love of her life. She'd spent years helping her husband Mark heal from the tragic death of his first wife Rachel, who died in a car accident 8 years earlier. Emma thought she had the perfect marriage, the perfect life, the perfect future. Then, at 9 p.m. on a Saturday night, with 60 guests celebrating in their home, the doorbell rang. Mark answered it, and standing on their doorstep was Rachel, his supposedly dead first wife, very much alive. She'd been in witness protection for 8 years. She thought Mark knew she was alive. He thought she was dead. And Emma? Emma was about to discover that her entire 5-year marriage was legally invalid because Mark's first marriage had never actually ended. What followed was a legal nightmare involving the FBI, witness protection gone wrong, accidental bigamy, and 3 people whose lives were about to be destroyed by a government mistake that should never have happened. Before I tell you how a woman's 5-year marriage was invalidated when her husband's dead wife returned from witness protection, and what the FBI did to cover up their massive mistake, hit that subscribe button for Story Matrix Hub. Because this story has more shocking twists than you can imagine. Secret identities, government conspiracies, legal nightmares, and a love triangle that nobody asked for. You need to hear every detail. Now let me tell you about Emma, the woman whose perfect anniversary party turned into the night her entire life fell apart. Emma Carter was living her dream life. She was 32 years old, married to Mark Carter, 35, for 5 years. They had a beautiful house in suburban Denver, good jobs. Emma was a graphic designer, Mark was an architect. They were trying for their first baby. Their marriage was solid, loving, supportive. Everyone said they were the perfect couple. Mark had been married once before, to a woman named Rachel Chen. But Rachel had died 8 years ago in a tragic car accident. Mark had been devastated, grief-stricken for years. He'd gone to therapy, joined support groups for widowers, slowly healed. Emma met Mark 6 years ago at a mutual friend's party. He was funny, kind, still a little sad around the edges. They started dating. Mark was upfront about his past, about losing Rachel, about the grief he still carried. "She was my first love," he told Emma on their 3rd date. "Losing her nearly destroyed me. But I'm ready to love again. I think Rachel would want me to be happy." Emma had fallen for him hard. This man who'd loved so deeply, who'd survived such loss, who was brave enough to open his heart again. They got married a year after they met. Small ceremony, intimate reception. Mark cried during his vows. "I never thought I'd get a second chance at love," he'd said. "Thank you for being my second chance." Emma's friends had worried it was too fast, that Mark was rebounding from grief. But 5 years later, they'd proved everyone wrong. The marriage was strong. Mark rarely talked about Rachel anymore. He'd healed, moved on, chosen to build a life with Emma instead of staying stuck in the past. For their 5-year anniversary, Emma planned a big party. 60 guests, family, friends, neighbors, coworkers. Catered food, open bar, a playlist of their favorite songs. She'd gone all out. 5 years. Mark had said that morning while they were setting up. "Best 5 years of my life. Better than your first marriage?" Emma had teased. Mark had pulled her close. "That was a different life. A different me. You're my real life, Emma. You're my forever." The party started at 6 p.m. By 8 p.m., everyone was having a great time. Dancing, laughing, toasting the happy couple. Emma's mom was there, beaming with pride. Mark's parents had flown in from California. Emma's best friend Sarah had made a speech about how Emma and Mark were proof that love can heal anything. At 9 p.m., Emma was in the kitchen refilling the ice bucket when she heard the doorbell ring. She didn't think anything of it. Probably a late guest, maybe a neighbor coming to complain about the noise. Mark went to answer the door. Emma heard him say, "Oh my God." Then silence. Long, heavy silence. Emma put down the ice bucket and walked toward the front door. Mark was standing frozen in the doorway, his face completely white. He looked like he was seeing a ghost. Standing on the porch was a woman. She was in her mid-30s, thin, blonde hair pulled back in a ponytail. She wore jeans and a simple jacket. She looked nervous, scared even. Her eyes were locked on Mark's face. "Mark," the woman said softly. "I'm sorry. They told me it was safe now. I should have called first, but I needed to see you. I needed to see if you were okay." Mark's voice came out strangled. "Rachel?" Emma's heart stopped. "Rachel. Rachel. Mark's dead wife Rachel?" But that was impossible. Rachel was dead. Dead for 8 years. Emma stepped up beside Mark. The woman, Rachel, looked at her confused. Who is she? Rachel asked Mark. Mark seemed unable to speak. Emma answered for him. I'm Emma. Mark's wife. Rachel's face went pale. Your wife? Yes. We've been married for 5 years. Rachel looked between them, her expression shifting from confusion to horror to devastation. Mark, she said, her voice breaking. I've been gone for 8 years. In witness protection. I couldn't contact you. They said it would put you in danger. I thought you'd wait for me. I thought you knew I was alive. The world tilted. Emma heard the words, but they didn't make sense. Witness protection? Alive? Wait for you. Mark's voice was rising. Rachel, you died. There was a funeral. I buried you. I mourned you for years. The funeral was fake. It was part of the protection program. Mark, I testified against a crime family. They threatened to kill me. The FBI said I had to disappear completely. They said they'd tell you I was in protection, but that we couldn't have contact. I thought you knew. How the hell would I know? The FBI told me you died in a car accident. They showed me photos of the crash. There was a casket. By now, the party guests had noticed something was wrong. People were gathering in the hallway, trying to see what was happening at the front door. Emma's best friend Sarah pushed through. Emma? What's going on? Emma couldn't answer. She was trying to process what she was hearing. Mark's dead wife was alive. She'd been in witness protection for 8 years. She thought Mark knew. He thought she was dead. And if Rachel had been alive this whole time, if she'd never died, then Mark's first marriage had never ended. Which meant, so you're still married? Emma heard herself ask. Her voice sounded distant, like it was coming from someone else. You and Mark, you're still legally married? Rachel and Mark looked at each other. I guess so, Rachel said. I mean, I never filed for divorce. I couldn't, I was in hiding. I thought I'd come home eventually. Mark shook his head. This isn't happening. This can't be happening. More guests were crowding around now. Mark's parents pushed through the crowd. Mark, his mother said. What's going on? Who is this woman? Mark turned to his mother, his face ashen. Mom, it's Rachel. Mark's mother gasped. His father grabbed the doorframe for support. That's impossible, Mark's father said. Rachel died. We went to her funeral. The funeral was fake, Rachel said, tears streaming down her face. I'm so sorry. I didn't know you didn't know. The FBI was supposed to tell you. The FBI told us you died. Mark's father shouted. The entire party had gone silent now. 60 people watching this surreal scene unfold. Emma felt like she was going to be sick. Sarah grabbed her arm. Emma, sit down. You look like you're going to faint. I can't sit down, Emma said. She looked at Mark. If you're still married to Rachel, then what am I? What are we? Mark reached for her. Emma, I didn't know. I swear to God, I thought she was dead. But she's not dead. She's standing right here. Which means our marriage isn't legal. Which means I've been living with you for 5 years thinking I was your wife when I'm actually… What? Your mistress? Your second wife in an accidental polygamous relationship. Don't say that. What am I supposed to say, Mark? Your wife is alive. Your real wife. Rachel flinched at the word real. I didn't mean, Emma started, but she didn't know how to finish. Emma's mother appeared, her face furious. Everyone needs to leave. Now. This is a private family matter. The guests didn't need to be told twice. Within 10 minutes, the party had cleared out. People grabbing their coats, whispering to each other, pulling out phones to presumably text everyone they knew about the insane drama they'd just witnessed. Soon it was just Emma, Mark, Rachel, and Emma's mother standing in the living room surrounded by party decorations and half-empty glasses. I should go, Rachel said quietly. No, Mark said. We need to talk. We need to figure out what the hell happened. Mark, Emma's mother said sharply. You need to let my daughter process this before you start having conversations with your other wife. She's not my other wife. I didn't know she was alive. But she is alive. Which makes Emma your other wife. Or not your wife at all. Which is worse. Mom, please, Emma said. She felt numb. Disconnected from her body. Everyone sit down. They sat. Emma and her mother on the couch. Mark in the armchair. Rachel perched nervously on the ottoman. Start from the beginning, Emma said. Rachel, tell us everything. Rachel took a shaky breath and began. Over the next 2 hours, Rachel explained how 8 years ago, she'd witnessed a brutal murder committed by members of a Chicago organized crime family. How she'd been terrified but agreed to testify. how the FBI offered her witness protection when the crime family threatened to kill her. They said they'd tell you, Rachel kept repeating to Mark. They promised they'd tell you I was alive but in hiding. They said you couldn't know where I was for safety reasons, but that you'd know I was okay. Nobody told me anything, Mark said. FBI agents came to my house and said you died in a single-car accident. They showed me photos of a crash scene. They helped me plan your funeral. Whose body did you bury? Rachel asked. I don't know. The casket was closed. They said the accident was too severe for an open casket. I never questioned it because why would I? Why would the FBI lie about something like that? Emma sat there listening, her mind racing. This was insane. This couldn't be real. But it was real. Rachel was sitting right there. Alive. After 8 years. And Emma's entire marriage, her entire life, was built on a lie she didn't even know existed. At midnight, Emma stood up. I need to leave. Emma, please, Mark started. No. I can't be here right now. I need space. I need to think. She went upstairs, packed a bag, and left. She checked into a hotel and lay awake all night, staring at the ceiling, trying to process the impossible situation she'd found herself in. Her husband's dead wife was alive. Emma might not be legally married. And the FBI had somehow catastrophically fucked up and destroyed 3 people's lives. What the hell happened next? Emma spent the next 3 days in a hotel room, ignoring most of Mark's calls and texts. She did answer one call from him, just to hear his side of things when he wasn't in shock. Emma, please come home. We can figure this out together. How, Mark? How do we figure this out? You're married to someone else. I'm married to you. In every way that matters, I'm married to you. Except legally. Legally, you're married to Rachel. Which means our marriage license is worthless. Which means I'm not your wife. Which means everything we built together for 5 years is built on a foundation that doesn't exist. That's not true. It is true. And you know what the worst part is? I can't even be mad at you. You didn't do anything wrong. Rachel didn't do anything wrong. The FBI fucked up, and we're all paying for it. So what do we do? I don't know. I need time to think. Emma also got calls from her mother, her best friend Sarah, and even Mark's mother. Mark's mom was apologetic. Emma, sweetie, I'm so sorry. We had no idea. When Rachel died, when we thought she died, we grieved her. We helped Mark through it. We welcomed you into the family. You're our daughter-in-law. Nothing changes that. Except Rachel is alive. And she's actually your daughter-in-law. I don't even know what I am. You're Mark's wife. You're the woman he chose to build a life with. But he didn't choose, did he? He thought Rachel was dead. If he'd known she was alive, he never would have started dating me. He never would have married me. I'm just the replacement for the wife he thought he lost. Emma hadn't meant to say that last part out loud, but once it was out, she couldn't take it back. And worse, it might be true. On day 4, Emma got a call from Mark's lawyer. Mrs. Carter? This is Daniel Reeves. Mark hired me to look into the legal situation with his first marriage. I need to meet with you to discuss your options. My options for what? For determining the legal status of your marriage to Mark. And potentially pursuing action against the federal government for negligence. Emma met with the lawyer that afternoon at his downtown office. Daniel Reeves was in his 50s, expensive suit, serious demeanor. He had a thick file in front of him. I've been researching cases where the FBI fakes deaths for witness protection, he said. It's rare, but it happens. Usually in organized crime cases. What's unusual about your situation is that the spouse is typically informed that their partner is alive, but in hiding. But Mark wasn't informed. Correct. Which means either there was a massive breakdown in communication, or someone at the FBI made a decision not to inform him. Can they do that? Can they just decide to fake someone's death without telling the spouse? Legally, it's murky. The FBI has broad authority in witness protection cases. But ethically? No. And practically? It's caused significant harm to all parties involved. So what are my options? Daniel leaned back in his chair. First, we need to determine the legal status of your marriage. If Mark's first marriage was never dissolved, then your marriage to Mark is likely void. Not voidable, void. Meaning it never legally existed. Emma felt sick. However, Daniel continued, Colorado recognizes common law marriage. If you and Mark held yourselves out as married, lived together, intended to be married, you might have a common law marriage that's separate from the void ceremonial marriage. So I might be common law married to a man who's still legally married to someone else? Potentially. It's complicated. We'd need to go to court to sort it out. What about Rachel? What are her rights? Legally, she's still married to Mark. She never filed for divorce. Her death was staged by the government, so there's no death certificate, no legal dissolution of the marriage. From a purely legal standpoint, Mark is married to Rachel, not you. Emma put her head in her hands. This is a nightmare. I know. But here's the thing, we can sue the FBI for this. What happened is likely negligence, possibly intentional misconduct. They destroyed 3 lives by mishandling Rachel's case. I don't want to sue the FBI. I just want my life back. Emma, I understand. But you need to think about your future. If your marriage to Mark is void, you have no legal protections. No spousal rights, no claim to marital property, nothing. You've spent 5 years building a life with Mark under the assumption you were married. The FBI's mistake cost you that. Emma left the lawyer's office feeling worse than when she arrived. That evening, she finally agreed to meet with Mark. He came to her hotel room. He looked terrible. Unshaven, dark circles under his eyes, rumpled clothes. Have you been sleeping? Emma asked. Not really. You? No. They sat on the edge of the hotel bed, not touching. I talked to my lawyer, Emma said. He says our marriage is probably void. Legally invalid. Mark closed his eyes. I know. My lawyer said the same thing. So what do we do? I don't know. Emma, I love you. I chose you. I want to be with you. But you're married to Rachel. On paper. Not in my heart. Mark, she spent 8 years in hiding thinking she'd come home to you someday. She sacrificed everything for witness protection. You can't just abandon her. I'm not abandoning her. But I'm also not going back to a marriage that ended 8 years ago. We're different people now. Have you talked to her? Since the party. Mark nodded. She's staying with her parents. She's devastated. She really thought I knew she was alive. She thought we'd pick up where we left off. What did you tell her? That I love you. That I'm sorry for what she went through, but that I've moved on. How did she take it? Not well. They sat in silence for a moment. The FBI called, Mark said. They want to meet with all 3 of us. To explain what happened. When? Tomorrow. At a lawyer's office. They're bringing Rachel's handler, the agent who was in charge of her case. I don't know if I can sit in a room with Rachel. I know. But we need answers. We need to know how this happened. Emma thought about it. Okay. I'll be there. The next day, Emma, Mark, and Rachel met at Daniel Reeves's office. 3 FBI agents were already there. An older man in his 50s who introduced himself as Agent Morrison, Rachel's handler, and 2 younger agents who were apparently conducting an internal investigation. Rachel looked as bad as Mark did. Pale, thin, exhausted. Emma felt a strange pang of sympathy. This woman wasn't her enemy. She was just another victim of the FBI's fuck-up. Agent Morrison started talking. First, I want to apologize to all 3 of you. What happened with Rachel's case was a failure of protocol and communication. We're conducting an internal review to determine exactly where things went wrong. Where things went wrong? Emma repeated. You faked a woman's death without telling her husband. That's not things going wrong. That's gross negligence. I understand your anger, Mrs. Carter. Don't call me Mrs. Carter. Apparently, I'm not actually married. Agent Morrison cleared his throat. Right. Let me explain what was supposed to happen with Rachel's case. He pulled out a file. 8 years ago, Rachel Chen witnessed a murder committed by members of the Kozlov crime family, a Russian organized crime syndicate operating in Chicago. She agreed to testify in exchange for witness protection. Standard protocol in these cases is to relocate the witness with a new identity. In high-risk cases where there's credible threat to the witness's life, we sometimes stage a death to make the witness appear deceased to the criminals. When we stage a death, we inform immediate family members that their loved one is alive, but in hiding. They can't have contact, but they know the death is fake. In Rachel's case, I was supposed to inform Mark that Rachel was entering witness protection and that her death was being staged. So why didn't you? Mark demanded. Agent Morrison shifted uncomfortably. I made a judgment call. The Kozlov family had extensive resources. They were monitoring Mark's communications, his behavior, everything. I was concerned that if Mark knew Rachel was alive, he might inadvertently reveal it through his behavior. Grief that seemed fake, changes in routine, attempts to search for her. So you just decided to let me think my wife was dead. I thought it was safer for Rachel if your grief was genuine. If you truly believed she was dead, the Kozlovs would believe it too. That's insane. Emma said. You let this man grieve for 8 years for a woman who wasn't dead. I understand that now. And the Bureau understands that I made the wrong call. But at the time, I was trying to protect Rachel's life. Rachel spoke up for the first time. Agent Morrison, you told me you'd informed Mark. You said he knew I was alive but couldn't contact me. You lied to me. I told you what I thought was best for your safety. Best for my safety? I spent 8 years thinking Mark was waiting for me. I turned down relationships, opportunities to build a life, because I thought I had a husband at home who knew I was coming back eventually. Mrs. Chen, don't call me that. I don't even know what my name is anymore. The younger FBI agent spoke up. Our investigation has determined that Agent Morrison acted outside of protocol. His decision not to inform Mr. Carter was unauthorized and violated Bureau policy. So what happens now? Mark asked. Agent Morrison has been suspended pending further investigation. The Bureau is prepared to offer compensation for the harm caused by this mistake. Compensation? Emma laughed bitterly. You think money fixes this? No, but it's what we can offer. Daniel Reeves leaned forward. What my clients need is clarity on the legal status of their marriages. Can the FBI help with that? The younger agent nodded. We're working with the Department of Justice to determine the best path forward. Because Rachel's death was staged by the government, there may be grounds to void the marriage administratively. Wait, Rachel said. Void the marriage? My marriage? Your marriage to Mark ended functionally 8 years ago when you entered witness protection. You've been living separate lives. You had no contact. The marriage existed only on paper. But I didn't want it to end. I was forced into witness protection. I didn't choose to leave Mark. We understand that, Mrs. Chen. But Mr. Carter believed you were deceased. He moved on, remarried in good faith. We need to find a solution that's fair to everyone. Fair to everyone? How is it fair that I spent 8 years in hell waiting to come home, and now I'm being told my marriage is over so Mark can stay with her? Rachel pointed at Emma. Emma wanted to disappear. She understood Rachel's anger, but she also couldn't help feeling defensive. She hadn't done anything wrong either. Rachel, Mark said gently, even if we were still married legally, we can't go back. Too much has changed. So that's it? 8 years of my life wasted. Not wasted. You saved your life. You testified and put away dangerous criminals. That matters. And what do I get? I get to come home to find out my husband replaced me. I didn't replace you. I grieved you. I mourned you. I thought you were dead, Rachel. But I'm not dead. I'm right here. The meeting ended with no resolution. The FBI promised to continue their investigation and work on a legal solution. Rachel left in tears. Mark looked broken. Emma felt numb. In the parking lot, Emma caught up with Rachel. Can we talk? Just the two of us? Rachel looked at her warily. About what? About how neither of us asked for this, and we're both victims here. Rachel studied Emma's face, then nodded. Okay, let's talk. They went to a coffee shop. Two women whose lives had collided in the worst possible way, trying to figure out how to move forward when there was no good path ahead. Emma and Rachel sat across from each other at a small coffee shop table. It was awkward. Incredibly, painfully awkward. Emma ordered a latte. Rachel ordered chamomile tea. They both stared at their drinks for a long moment. Finally, Rachel spoke. I don't hate you. Emma looked up, surprised. No. I want to. God, I want to hate you so much. But you didn't do anything wrong. You fell in love with a man you thought was a widower. You didn't steal my husband. The FBI stole my life. I don't hate you either, Emma said. I'm angry and confused, and I don't know what I'm supposed to feel. But I know you didn't do anything wrong either. Except testify against the mob and ruin everything. You testified to put away murderers. You were brave. You saved lives. Rachel laughed bitterly. At what cost? I spent 8 years in a tiny town in Idaho. No friends. I couldn't risk getting close to anyone because I might slip up about my real identity. No family. Couldn't contact my parents, my sister, anyone. No career. I was a paralegal before, now I'm a waitress with a fake resume. I can't even imagine. And the whole time, I was thinking this is temporary. Soon the trials will be over, the criminals will be in prison, and I can go home to Mark. We'll have lost 8 years, but we'll have the rest of our lives together. That thought is what kept me going. Emma felt tears in her eyes. Rachel, I'm so sorry. For what? You didn't do this. I don't know. For existing, I guess. For being in the way of your happy ending. Rachel shook her head. You're not in the way. The FBI is in the way. Time is in the way. 8 years is in the way. Can I ask you something personal? I guess. Do you still love Mark? Rachel was quiet for a long time. I love the Mark I remember. The Mark I was married to 8 years ago. But that Mark doesn't exist anymore, does he? People change. He's changed. I've changed. We're strangers now who used to be married. He told me about you, Emma said. About your relationship. He said you met in college, got married young, were planning to start a family. He said you were his best friend. We were. And then I witnessed a murder and everything ended. What did you see? If you can talk about it. Rachel took a sip of tea. I was walking home from work late one night in Chicago. I heard shouting in an alley. I looked, and I saw 2 men beating another man. Then one of them pulled out a gun and shot him. They saw me. Started chasing me. I ran, found a cop, reported it. The men I saw were Alexei and Dmitry Kozlov, brothers who ran a Russian organized crime operation. The man they killed was someone who owed them money. The FBI came to me and said I'd need to testify. I said fine, I wanted to do the right thing. Then they said the Kozlovs had connections everywhere, that witnesses in their trials often ended up dead. They offered me witness protection. I asked if Mark could come with me. They said no. The more people involved, the harder it is to maintain cover. I asked if I could tell Mark what was happening. They said they'd handle it, that he'd be informed I was in protection, but that we couldn't have contact. I said goodbye to Mark the morning before everything went down. I didn't know it was goodbye. I thought I'd see him that evening. Instead, FBI agents picked me up from work, took me to a safe house, and I never went home. 3 days later, Agent Morrison told me that my death had been staged and Mark had been informed I was in protection. I cried for days, but I thought at least Mark knew I was alive. At least he knew I'd come back eventually. Emma tried to imagine it, being ripped away from your life, told you can never go home, believing your husband knows you're alive, but not being able to contact him. Did they let you see the trial? Know what happened with the case? No. I was kept away from everything. I testified via video link from a secure location. I wasn't allowed to know details about the trial, the verdict, anything. They said the less I knew, the safer I was. It wasn't until last month that Agent Morrison called and said the Kozlov brothers had been sentenced, their organization dismantled, and I was cleared to reclaim my identity. I was so excited. I kept thinking, I'm going home. I'm going to see Mark. 8 years is a long time, but we'll make it work. I planned what I'd say to him, how I'd explain everything. Then I showed up at your anniversary party and saw you. What was that like? Seeing us together? Rachel's eyes filled with tears. Devastating. I saw Mark laughing with you, touching you, looking at you the way he used to look at me. And I realized he moved on. He built a life without me. I wasn't coming home to my husband. I was intruding on someone else's marriage. But it's not someone else's marriage, Emma said. It's technically your marriage. You're his legal wife. Technically. But not actually. You know what I realized when I saw you two together? You make him happy. Happier than I remember him being with me. And I don't know if that's because you're better for him, or because he's more mature now, or because the relationship isn't tainted by grief and trauma. But you make him happy. Emma didn't know what to say to that. Can I ask you something? Rachel said. Of course. Do you love him? So much it hurts. And he loves you? I think so. I thought so. Now I don't know if he loves me or if he just loved that I wasn't you. That I was safe. That I couldn't die and leave him. Rachel nodded slowly. That's my fear too. That he only got with you because you represented safety. A life without the trauma of losing a spouse. They sat in silence. This is so fucked up, Emma said finally. Truly fucked up, Rachel agreed. What do you want to happen? If you could wave a magic wand and fix everything, what would you want? Rachel thought about it. Honestly, I'd want the FBI to have told Mark the truth 8 years ago. I'd want him to have waited for me or not, his choice. But an actual choice. Not this forced moving on because he thought I was dead. What about now? What do you want now? I don't know. Part of me wants to fight for my marriage. But another part of me thinks, what's the point? Mark isn't in love with me anymore. He's in love with you. And I can't compete with 5 years of a relationship I wasn't part of. You shouldn't have to compete. This isn't a competition. Isn't it though? You're both married to the same man. Only one of you gets to stay married to him. Emma realized Rachel was right. This was a competition, whether either of them wanted it to be or not. What's Mark said to you? Emma asked. Since the party? He said he's sorry. That he didn't know I was alive. That he grieved me and eventually moved on. That he loves you now and wants to build a life with you. How did that feel to hear? Like being shot. Like finding out the person you love most in the world fell in love with someone else while you were trapped in witness protection hell. Rachel, I'm so sorry. Stop apologizing. You didn't do anything wrong. None of us did anything wrong except trust the FBI to handle this properly. They talked for another hour. About Mark, about witness protection, about their lives. Rachel told Emma about Jennifer Miller, her fake identity in Idaho. She'd been a waitress at a diner, lived in a small apartment, avoided getting close to anyone. I went on a few dates, Rachel admitted. Tried to have some semblance of a normal life. But it felt wrong, like I was cheating on Mark. So I stopped. I just waited. For 8 years, I just waited. Emma told Rachel about meeting Mark, their relationship, their marriage. He still missed you, Emma said. He'd get sad sometimes, especially around your anniversary or your birthday. He'd tell me stories about you. About how you loved bad reality TV and made terrible puns and wanted 3 kids. I did want 3 kids. We'd picked out names. Lucas, Emma, and Sophie. Emma's breath caught. Emma? He wanted to name your daughter Emma? Yeah. It was his grandmother's name. Emma felt strange. Mark had never told her that. Was she named after the daughter he never got to have with Rachel? Did Mark tell you why he named you Emma? Rachel asked, reading Emma's expression. He said it was his grandmother's name. He didn't say you'd planned to use it. Maybe he forgot. Or maybe it was subconscious. Emma felt sick. Was she just a replacement? A substitute for the life Mark was supposed to have with Rachel? Rachel reached across the table and grabbed Emma's hand. Don't do that. Don't spiral. Mark fell in love with you because of who you are, not because you're a replacement for me. How do you know? Because I saw the way he looked at you at the party. Before he saw me, he looked at you like you were his whole world. That's not the look of someone settling for second place. They talked until the coffee shop started closing. As they stood to leave, Rachel said, I don't know what's going to happen, but I want you to know I don't blame you. And I don't want to hurt you. I don't want to hurt you either. But one of us is going to get hurt, aren't we? Because Mark can't stay married to both of us. I guess so. They hugged awkwardly in the parking lot, then went their separate ways. Emma drove back to her hotel feeling more confused than ever. She liked Rachel. She felt terrible for Rachel. She understood why Rachel would want to fight for her marriage. But Emma also loved Mark. And she'd built a life with him. And she didn't want to give that up. The question was, what did Mark want? And more importantly, what was legally going to happen? Because the FBI had created this mess, but a court was going to have to sort it out. And when they did, someone was going to lose everything. 2 weeks after Rachel's return, the legal situation came to a head. Rachel had hired her own lawyer, a woman named Patricia Cruz who specialized in family law and witness protection cases. Patricia filed a motion in court to have Rachel's marriage to Mark officially recognized and Emma's marriage declared void. Daniel Reeves, Mark and Emma's lawyer, responded with a counter-motion arguing that Rachel's marriage had been effectively abandoned when she entered witness protection without Mark's knowledge or consent. It was going to trial. Emma moved back home with Mark, partly because she needed to maintain the appearance of their marriage for legal purposes, partly because she missed him, partly because living in a hotel indefinitely wasn't sustainable. But things were strained between them. They slept in the same bed but barely touched. They talked about logistics and legal strategy, but avoided deeper conversations. One night, Emma finally asked the question that had been bothering her. Did you name me after the daughter you wanted to have with Rachel? Mark looked shocked. What? No. I mean, yes, Emma was a name Rachel and I liked, but... So I am named after your fantasy child with your first wife. Emma, it's not like that. Then what is it like, Mark? Because I'm trying to understand how much of our relationship was real, and how much was you trying to recreate what you lost with Rachel. None of it was that. I fell in love with you. Not with some idea of Rachel. But you literally gave me the name you were saving for your daughter with her. It was my grandmother's name. It mattered to me for reasons that had nothing to do with Rachel. Did it? Or is that what you're telling yourself now? They fought. Really fought, for the first time in their relationship. I'm trying to keep our marriage intact. Mark shouted. I'm fighting for us. And you're acting like I did something wrong. You didn't do anything wrong. That's the problem. Nobody did anything wrong, and we're all suffering anyway. So what do you want me to do? I don't know. Maybe I want you to admit that you loved Rachel more than you love me. That I'm the consolation prize. That's insane. I love you, Emma. I chose you. You chose me because you thought Rachel was dead. You never would have looked at me twice if she'd been alive. That's not fair. None of this is fair. Emma slept in the guest room that night. Meanwhile, the FBI was doing damage control. Agent Morrison was officially terminated. The FBI offered a settlement to all three parties. $500,000 to Rachel for emotional distress and lost wages during witness protection. $250,000 to Mark for grief counseling and emotional distress. $250,000 to Emma for the same. It's insulting, Emma told Daniel Reeves. They think money fixes this? It's actually a decent offer considering the legal challenges of suing the federal government. But yes, it's insulting. I don't want their money. I want my life back. I understand. But you should consider taking it. If your marriage to Mark is declared void, you'll have no legal claim to marital assets. This settlement protects you financially. Rachel accepted the FBI's settlement. She needed the money. 8 years of witness protection had left her with almost nothing. Mark was conflicted but eventually accepted too. Emma refused. I don't want blood money from the FBI, she told Mark. I want justice. I want them to fix what they broke. They can't fix it, Emma. What's broken can't be unbroken. The court date was set for 6 weeks away. During that time, Emma, Mark, and Rachel all had to give depositions, provide evidence of their relationships, and essentially prove which marriage deserved legal recognition. It was humiliating. Emma had to describe her relationship with Mark in intimate detail. How they met, when they fell in love, their wedding day, their sex life, their plans for children. All while knowing Rachel was reading the transcripts. Rachel had to do the same thing about her marriage with Mark, describing their history, their plans, the trauma of having that life ripped away. Mark had to sit between his two wives and somehow explain that he loved both of them, but in different ways at different times. The media got wind of the story. Husband's dead, wife returns from witness protection. Now 2 women claim him. FBI mistake creates bizarre love triangle. Who's the real wife? Court will decide. Reporters showed up at their house. Emma's face was plastered across news websites. Strangers on the internet picked sides. Team Emma versus Team Rachel. Team Rachel. She suffered in witness protection. He should honor his first marriage. Team Emma. She's the one who helped him heal. Her marriage is real. Emma stopped reading the comments. One night, she got a DM on Instagram from a woman named Ashley. I was in a similar situation. My fiancé's ex-wife came back after we thought she died. If you want to talk to someone who understands, I'm here. Emma called her. Ashley had gone through something eerily similar 5 years earlier. Her fiancé's wife had disappeared, was declared legally dead after 7 years. He'd moved on and gotten engaged. Then the wife returned. She'd had amnesia after a car accident and had been living in another state with no memory of her past life. What happened? Emma asked. Legally, his first marriage was still valid. My engagement was meaningless. We fought it in court but ultimately lost. He went back to his first wife. Did it work out? No. They tried to make it work for about a year, but too much had changed. They divorced. By then I'd moved on. Last I heard, he's single and miserable. That's not encouraging. I'm not trying to encourage you. I'm trying to prepare you. Legally, first marriages usually take precedence. Rachel's marriage to Mark never ended. Yours might not survive the legal challenge. Even though Mark wants to stay with me? Even then. Courts care about legal marriage, not emotional bonds. After hanging up with Ashley, Emma felt hopeless. The preliminary court hearing was a disaster. Rachel's lawyer argued that Mark and Rachel's marriage was legal and binding, that Rachel's absence was involuntary and government-imposed, and that Mark's subsequent marriage to Emma was void from the start. Daniel Reeves argued that Mark had married Emma in good faith believing Rachel was deceased, that they'd built a life together, and that forcing Mark to return to a marriage that had been dead for 8 years was cruel and unusual. The judge looked overwhelmed. This is an unprecedented situation, Judge Linda Martinez said. I need time to review case law and determine the proper legal framework. She scheduled a full trial for 4 weeks later. In the parking lot afterward, Emma, Mark, and Rachel all stood awkwardly by their cars. This is hell, Rachel said to no one in particular. Agreed, Emma said. Can we all just admit this is impossible? Mark said. There's no good outcome. Someone's going to be devastated no matter what the judge decides. Unless, Rachel started, then stopped. Unless what? Emma asked. Unless we figure it out ourselves. Without the court. How? I don't know. But fighting in court isn't solving anything. It's just making everything worse. Mark looked between them. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting the three of us sit down, without lawyers, without judges, and figure out what we actually want. What we can live with. You mean like mediation? Emma asked. Sort of. But more honest. No legal posturing, no trying to win. Just three people whose lives got tangled up trying to untangle them in a way that hurts the least. Emma looked at Mark. He looked exhausted, hopeless. Okay, Emma said. Let's try. 3 days later, Emma, Mark, and Rachel met at a neutral location. A conference room at a local library. No lawyers. No FBI agents. No reporters. Just three people trying to figure out an impossible situation. Rachel spoke first. I've been thinking a lot about what I actually want. Not what I feel entitled to, not what's legally mine, but what I genuinely want. And, Mark asked, I want my life back. But that's impossible. The life I had doesn't exist anymore. You're not the same Mark I married. I'm not the same Rachel you married. 8 years changed everything. So what does that mean? Emma asked. It means I think I need to let go. Not because you deserve him more than I do, because neither of us deserves him, he's not property. But because holding on to a marriage that ended 8 years ago isn't fair to any of us. Mark looked stunned. Rachel, I'm not saying it doesn't hurt. It does. But I've been thinking about what Emma said, that we're all victims here. And if we're all victims, then none of us should be punished more than we already have been. What are you saying? Emma asked carefully. I'm saying I'll agree to a divorce. I'll let the marriage go. Mark can stay with you. Emma felt relief and guilt in equal measure. But, Rachel continued, I need something from both of you. What? Mark asked. I need help rebuilding my life. I lost everything, my career, my identity, my savings, 8 years of my life. I'm starting from zero at 35 years old. I need support, not just financially but practically. Help finding a job, a place to live, reconnecting with the world. Of course, Mark said immediately. Whatever you need. And I need to stay connected. I know that sounds weird, but you two are the only people who understand what I went through. I can't just disappear again. I need to be part of your lives in some way. Emma felt her stomach twist. Having Rachel in their lives permanently? Could she handle that? But then she looked at Rachel's face. This woman who'd lost everything and was trying so hard to find grace in an impossible situation. And she knew the answer. Okay, Emma said. We'll figure it out. They spent the next 3 hours talking through logistics. Rachel would file for divorce from Mark, citing irreconcilable differences and extended separation. Emma and Mark would get officially married once the divorce was final. They'd help Rachel find a job and apartment. They'd stay in touch, maybe monthly dinners, holiday invitations if Rachel wanted them. It was strange and unconventional, but it was the best solution they could find. But there was one more bombshell coming, one that would change everything yet again. 2 weeks after the library meeting, Emma, Mark, and Rachel met with their lawyers to finalize the divorce agreement. Rachel would file for divorce. Mark would not contest it. They'd divide assets equitably. Rachel would get half of what Mark had owned when she entered witness protection, plus the FBI settlement. Emma and Mark would keep everything they'd built together in the last 5 years. It was fair. It was reasonable. It was almost finalized. Then Rachel said, There's something I need to tell you both before we sign anything. Emma's stomach dropped. She knew that tone. That was the tone of someone about to drop a bomb. What is it? Mark asked. Rachel took a deep breath. I'm pregnant. Silence. Complete, total silence. Emma felt like the floor had dropped out from under her. You're what? Mark finally said. Pregnant. About 8 weeks. How? Emma asked, then immediately felt stupid. She knew how. I met someone, Rachel said. In Idaho. During witness protection. We weren't supposed to get close to anyone, but I was so lonely. His name was David. He was a local guy, nice kind. We dated for about 6 months last year. You're pregnant by someone else, Mark said slowly, processing. Yes. David doesn't know yet. I just found out last week. I was going to tell him, but then the FBI cleared me to come home, and I left Idaho without explaining anything to him. He thinks I just disappeared. Emma tried to wrap her head around this. So you're pregnant with another man's baby, but you're still legally married to Mark. Yes. And you were just going to divorce Mark and not mention this? I wasn't hiding it. I just found out. I've been processing everything else, the return, seeing Mark married, the legal battle. I took a pregnancy test 3 days ago. Does David know you were in witness protection? Mark asked. No. I told him my name was Jennifer Miller. He thinks I'm a waitress who moved to Idaho for a fresh start. He doesn't know about my real life, about you, about any of this. So there's a guy in Idaho who thinks his girlfriend just ghosted him and doesn't know she's pregnant with his baby, Emma said. Yes. Jesus Christ, Rachel. I know it's a mess. Everything is a mess. Mark put his head in his hands. This complicates things. How? Rachel asked. If you're pregnant with Mark's legal wife, the baby is presumed to be Mark's under the law, Daniel Reeves explained. Even though Mark obviously isn't the biological father. That's insane, Emma said. That's marital presumption laws. If a woman gives birth while married, her husband is presumed to be the father unless proven otherwise. So I'd legally be the father of Rachel's baby unless we contest it? Mark asked. Correct. But we're getting divorced. The divorce takes time. If Rachel gives birth before the divorce is finalized, you're legally the father. Emma started laughing. Hysterical, slightly unhinged laughing. This is insane, she managed between laughs. This whole situation is completely insane. Rachel looked miserable. I'm sorry. I didn't plan this. I didn't plan any of this. What do you want to do? Mark asked her. About the baby? I want to keep it. I'm 35. I might not get another chance. And I'm not going to punish an innocent baby for the FBI's mistake. What about David? The father? I need to tell him. He deserves to know. But I don't know how to explain any of this to him. You tell him the truth, Emma said. You were in witness protection. You couldn't tell him. Now you're out and pregnant. He deserves the whole truth. What if he hates me for lying? Then he hates you. But you still have to tell him. Rachel nodded, tears in her eyes. The meeting ended with no divorce papers signed. They needed to figure out the paternity issue first. That evening, Rachel called David. She put it on speaker so Mark and Emma could hear. They'd asked to be present, and Rachel had agreed. They were all in this together now, for better or worse. Jennifer? David's voice came through. He sounded confused. Where have you been? You disappeared 2 weeks ago. I've been worried sick. David, I need to tell you something. And it's going to sound insane. Okay. Rachel explained everything. Witness protection. Her real identity. Why she'd left Idaho suddenly. And finally, the pregnancy. David was silent for a long time. So your name isn't Jennifer? No. It's Rachel. And you were married? I am married. Technically. We're getting divorced. And you witnessed a murder in Chicago and spent 8 years in hiding? Yes. And you're pregnant with my baby? Yes. More silence. David. Rachel said softly. Say something. I don't know what to say. This is a lot. I know. I'm sorry. I wanted to tell you the truth so many times, but I couldn't. The FBI wouldn't let me. So the past year we spent together, was any of it real? All of it was real. My feelings for you were real. I fell in love with you, David. That's why I got careless, why I let myself get close to you even though I wasn't supposed to. You love me? Yes. But you left. You went back to your husband. My husband moved on. He's with someone else. We're getting divorced. David, I came back to Idaho to tell you, but then I found out I was pregnant and I panicked. I didn't know how to explain any of this. And now I'm asking if you want to be part of this. Part of the baby's life. Part of my life, if you'll have me. Emma and Mark exchanged looks. They hadn't known Rachel was planning to ask David to be involved. David said, I need time to think. I understand. But Rachel, or Jennifer, or whoever you are, I'm angry you lied. But I'm also glad you're okay. I thought something bad happened to you. Something bad did happen. Just not what you thought. Can I call you back in a few days? Yes. Take all the time you need. They hung up. Rachel looked at Emma and Mark. I think I just blew up another relationship. You told him the truth, Mark said. That's all you could do. 3 days later, David called back. He wanted to be involved. He wanted to help raise the baby. But he wasn't ready to move to Colorado. He had a life in Idaho. So we'll figure out co-parenting, Rachel said. People do it all the time. Can I ask you something? David said. Do you love him? Your husband. Ex-husband soon. And no, I love the man he was 8 years ago. But that man doesn't exist anymore. Do you still love me? Yes. Then maybe we can figure this out. After the baby's born, after things settle down. Maybe we can try again. Rachel smiled. The first genuine smile Emma had seen on her face since she returned. I'd like that. After the call, Emma felt a strange sense of relief. Rachel had someone. She wasn't alone in this. She wasn't going to spend the rest of her life pining for Mark. Maybe this could actually work out. But there was still the legal issue of the baby's paternity. Daniel Reeves filed a motion to expedite the divorce so it would be finalized before Rachel gave birth. That way, Mark wouldn't be presumed the legal father. The court agreed. The divorce was fast-tracked. 6 weeks later, Rachel and Mark's marriage was officially dissolved. Rachel Chen was single again for the first time in 13 years. Mark was free to marry Emma, legally this time. They scheduled a small ceremony at the courthouse. Just immediate family. No big celebration. That felt wrong given everything. It was surreal. Mark's ex-wife witnessing his marriage to the woman he'd married while thinking his first wife was dead. But Rachel hugged Emma afterward and said, "Be happy. Both of you. Make it worth it." Emma and Mark were finally legally married. Rachel was rebuilding her life with David. The legal nightmare was over. But the emotional aftermath was just beginning. Because living through trauma doesn't mean you've healed from it. And all three of them, Emma, Mark, and Rachel, were about to discover that the hardest part wasn't surviving the crisis. It was learning to live with what came after. 1 year after Rachel's return, Emma sat in a therapist's office trying to explain her life. "So let me make sure I understand," Dr. Sarah Kim said. "Your husband's first wife came back from witness protection after everyone thought she was dead for 8 years. You discovered your marriage was void. There was a legal battle. His first wife got pregnant by someone else. They divorced. You remarried your husband legally. And now you're all friends." "Sort of," Emma said. "It's complicated." That's an understatement. Emma had been in therapy for 6 months, working through the trauma of the past year. Mark was in therapy too. Separately and together, they were trying to process what happened and rebuild their relationship. Because even though they were legally married now, things were different. The crisis had left scars. Emma had trust issues she'd never had before. Not because Mark had done anything wrong, but because her entire reality had been upended once, and she lived with low-level anxiety that it could happen again. What if someone else from his past shows up, she'd say during their couples therapy sessions. What if there's another secret that destroys everything? "There's not," Mark would assure her. "Emma, I've told you everything about my life. There are no more secrets. You thought Rachel was dead. You didn't know that was a secret." Mark didn't have a good answer for that. They were also dealing with the fallout in their social circle. Some friends had been supportive throughout the crisis. Others had gossiped, taken sides, made judgments. Emma's best friend Sarah had been Team Emma from the start. Rachel had her chance. She should have let Mark go. But other friends thought Emma should have stepped aside. Rachel was in witness protection. She didn't choose to leave. Emma should have been the bigger person. The judgment hurt. People who didn't live through it had opinions about what Emma and Mark should have done. "Ignore them," Mark said. "They don't understand." But it was hard to ignore. Meanwhile, Rachel's life was evolving in unexpected ways. She'd given birth to a baby girl she named Sophie. David had been there for the birth, and they were trying to make co-parenting work despite living in different states. Rachel had moved back to Colorado to be closer to her family. She'd gotten a job at a law firm. Back in the paralegal career she'd left 8 years earlier. She was rebuilding. But it was hard. "I'm 36 years old, and I feel like I'm starting from scratch," Rachel told Emma during one of their monthly coffee meetings. "Everyone my age has established careers, families, homes. I have a baby, a part-time boyfriend in another state, and an entry-level job." "You're doing amazing considering what you went through," Emma said. "Am I? Because some days I wonder if it was worth it. Testifying, I mean. I helped put away criminals, but at what cost? You saved lives. The Kozlov brothers would have hurt more people if you hadn't testified. Maybe. But I also lost 8 years. I lost Mark. I lost myself. But you found yourself again. Different, but still you." Rachel smiled sadly. "You're a good friend, Emma. It's weird that we're friends, but I'm glad we are." "Me too." The friendship between Emma and Rachel was the strangest outcome of the whole situation. They texted regularly. Met for coffee. Emma had even babysat Sophie a few times when Rachel needed help. Mark found it unsettling. "It's weird that my ex-wife and current wife are friends," he said one evening. "Would you prefer we hate each other?" Emma asked. "No, but I don't know. It's just strange. Everything about this situation is strange. We might as well be strange together." Emma and Mark tried to get their life back to normal, but normal had changed. They were still trying for a baby. Emma wanted children, and they'd been trying since before Rachel returned. But Emma found herself afraid to get pregnant. "What if something else goes wrong?" she told Dr. Kim in therapy. "What if we have a baby and then some other crisis tears our family apart? You can't live in fear of hypothetical crises." But the last crisis wasn't hypothetical. It was real. Mark's dead wife came back to life. Who's to say something else impossible won't happen? Emma, trauma makes us hypervigilant. Your brain is trying to protect you by expecting the worst. But you can't let fear control your life. How do I stop being afraid? By accepting that you can't control everything. Bad things happen. Unexpected things happen. But you survived the last crisis. You'll survive the next one if it comes. Emma tried to believe that. 6 months later, Emma got pregnant. She and Mark were cautiously excited. They'd been trying for so long, and now it was finally happening. Rachel was one of the first people Emma told. "I'm so happy for you," Rachel said, and she seemed to genuinely mean it. "You're going to be a great mom." "I'm terrified." "Of course you are. But you'll be okay. You have Mark. You have support. And you have me if you need anything." The pregnancy progressed normally. Emma and Mark went to doctor's appointments, set up a nursery, picked out names. They decided on Lucas for a boy, Lily for a girl. "Not Emma." Rachel had joked when Emma told her the names. "Definitely not Emma," Emma had laughed. When Emma was 7 months pregnant, she got an unexpected call. "Mrs. Carter? This is Agent David Lynch from the FBI. I'm calling about the settlement offer from last year." Emma had turned down the FBI's settlement. She hadn't wanted their money. "I'm not interested in the settlement," Emma said. "I understand. But I'm calling to inform you that Agent Morrison is being criminally prosecuted for his mishandling of Rachel Chen's case. If you'd be willing to testify about the impact his decisions had on your life, it would help the case." Emma thought about it. Testifying meant reliving the trauma publicly. But it also meant holding someone accountable. "What are the charges?" she asked. "Official misconduct, falsifying government records, and violation of witness protection protocols. He faces up to 10 years in prison if convicted." 10 years. For destroying 3 lives. "I'll testify," Emma said. The trial was scheduled for 2 months later, after Emma's due date. Emma gave birth to a healthy baby girl they named Lily. The delivery was smooth, the baby perfect. Mark cried when he held his daughter for the first time. "I can't believe we finally have our family," he said. Rachel visited them in the hospital, bringing Sophie to meet Lily. "Look, Sophie," Rachel said to her 1-year-old. "That's baby Lily. You're going to be friends." It was surreal, Rachel's baby and Emma's baby, playing together, growing up knowing each other despite the complicated history that brought them into each other's lives. 3 months after Lily was born, Emma testified at Agent Morrison's trial. She told the court everything, finding out at her anniversary party that Mark's first wife was alive, discovering her marriage was void, the emotional trauma, the legal battle, the aftermath. Agent Morrison's decision to withhold information from Mark Carter destroyed 3 lives, Emma testified. Mark grieved a wife who wasn't dead. Rachel spent 8 years thinking her husband knew she was alive and waiting for her. "And I built a life on a foundation that turned out to be false. All because one FBI agent decided he knew better than protocol." The prosecution also brought Rachel to testify and Mark. Rachel was devastating on the stand. "I spent 8 years alone," she said, her voice breaking. "I gave up everything to testify against criminals. I did my civic duty. And in return, the FBI took my entire life. I lost my husband, my career, my identity. I miss my 20s and early 30s. I came home to find out the man I loved had moved on because someone decided not to tell him I was alive." Mark testified about his grief, his therapy, his eventual move forward with Emma. "I mourned my wife for years," he said. "I went to support groups. I visited her grave, a grave that didn't actually contain her body because the whole thing was fake. I processed loss and grief, and eventually found the courage to love again. And then I found out it was all based on a lie." Agent Morrison's defense was weak. He claimed he was trying to protect Rachel, that genuine grief for Mark would make the fake death more convincing. "I made a judgment call," he testified. "In witness protection, the witness's safety is paramount. I believe that if Mr. Carter knew Ms. Chen was alive, he might inadvertently reveal it. But protocol requires informing spouses," the prosecutor said. "I know, but I made a different choice because I thought it was safer." "And you didn't think about the harm your choice would cause?" "I thought about Ms. Chen's safety. That was my priority." "What about Mr. Carter's mental health? Ms. Chen's emotional well-being thinking her husband knew where she was? Ms. Carter's life being upended?" "I didn't anticipate Mr. Carter would remarry." "You didn't anticipate that a man who believed his wife was dead would eventually move on with his life?" Morrison had no good answer. The jury deliberated for 2 days. Guilty on all counts. Agent Morrison was sentenced to 7 years in federal prison. Emma felt a grim satisfaction. It didn't fix what happened, but it was something. Accountability. Justice. 2 years after Rachel's return, Emma hosted Thanksgiving dinner. It was a strange gathering: Emma, Mark, and baby Lily. Rachel, David, who'd moved to Colorado, and toddler Sophie. Mark's parents. Emma's mother. A few close friends. "This is the weirdest family I've ever seen," Emma's mother whispered. "Tell me about it," Emma said. But as she looked around the table, at Mark holding Lily, at Rachel laughing with David, at Sophie and her cousin playing together, Emma felt something unexpected. Peace. Not because everything was perfect. It wasn't. They'd all been through hell. They all had scars. But they'd survived. They'd found a way forward. They'd built something new from the wreckage of what the FBI had destroyed. After dinner, Rachel pulled Emma aside. "Thank you," Rachel said. "For what?" "For not hating me. For becoming my friend. For letting me be part of your life, even though I'm Mark's ex-wife, and my existence caused you so much pain." "Rachel, you didn't cause me pain. Agent Morrison did. The FBI did. You were just another victim. Still, you could have shut me out. You didn't have to be kind. Neither did you. You could have fought me for Mark. You could have made everything harder." "I thought about it," Rachel admitted. "There were days I wanted to fight. But then I realized, you make him happy. And I want Mark to be happy, even if it's not with me." "Do you still love him?" Rachel thought about it. "I love who he was. But I'm in love with David now. It took a while, but I realized David knows me. The real me, the person I am now. Mark only knew who I was 8 years ago. I'm glad you found David. I'm glad you found Mark. Even if the circumstances were insane." They hugged, two women whose lives had collided in the worst possible way, who'd found friendship in the aftermath. That night, after everyone had left, Emma and Mark sat on their couch with Lily asleep between them. "Can you believe this is our life?" Emma asked. "Which part? The part where my dead wife came back to life, or the part where you and my ex-wife are best friends, or the part where we host Thanksgiving with your ex-husband's girlfriend and their baby?" "All of it." Mark laughed. "No, I can't believe any of it. 2 years ago, I was celebrating our anniversary thinking life was perfect. Now this. Are you happy?" Emma asked. "Yes. Are you?" "Yes. It's weird, but yes. I love you, Emma. I'm sorry for everything you went through because of my past. It's not your fault. And I love you too. All of you, including your messy past." 3 years after Rachel's return, Emma and Mark sold their house. Too many memories of the anniversary party disaster, and bought a new one. Rachel and David got engaged. They'd made long-distance work, then decided to go all in. The wedding invitation arrived in Emma's mailbox. "Rachel Chen and David Foster request the honor of your presence." Emma and Mark attended. They danced at the reception. They toasted the couple. It felt full circle somehow. Life moved on. Lily grew. Sophie grew. The families blended in strange and wonderful ways. Emma eventually wrote a book about the experience. The Wife Who Came Back, a true story of witness protection, love, and starting over. It became a bestseller. Emma donated the proceeds to organizations supporting witness protection witnesses and their families. Rachel wrote her own memoir, 8 Years Gone, My Life in Witness Protection and the Aftermath. The two books were often sold together. People who read one read the other. Their story became a cautionary tale about FBI overreach and the unintended consequences of well-meaning mistakes. That's Emma and Rachel's story. Two women whose lives were destroyed when the FBI faked a death and forgot to tell the husband. What started as a perfect anniversary party became a legal nightmare, a love triangle nobody wanted, and ultimately, A strange new family built from impossible circumstances. They didn't ask for any of it, but they survived it. Together. Would you have handled it the same way? Could you be friends with your husband's ex-wife? Could you let go of the person you loved if they'd moved on while you were in witness protection? Drop a comment below. I want to hear your thoughts. And if you're dealing with complicated family situations, betrayals that weren't anyone's fault, or relationships that defy normal categories, you're not alone. Life is messy. Families are complicated. And sometimes the only way forward is together. Subscribe to Story Matrix Hub for more incredible true stories about love, loss, secrets, and survival. Remember, the most unbelievable stories are often the true ones. I'm Story Matrix Hub. Thanks for listening.